Gathered here. As you know, this is the day we have selected for our annual memorial service in the memory of Samuel Neilson, Irish patriot from the north of Ireland. But I'd like now to introduce Reverend James Long, pastor of the Lyall Memorial Federated Church in Millbrook, New York. And we're very happy to have you here with us today. Reverend,
Well, I thought I'd start out with a little joke and see if that gets us into the talk. I don't know if you ever heard of the fellow. He'd grown up in Pearl River, New York. He was an Irish Catholic fellow, and he had two dreams all his life. One was to go to the Vatican and see the beautiful churches there, and the other was to visit the land of his ancestors in Ireland. And so he had saved up money, and he finally was in his late 50s, and he went over, and he traveled from church to church in Rome. And he noticed that in each church there was a golden stand and a silver phone on top. And so he asked one of the priests there, he said, what's that phone? And he said, well, son, he said, that's a direct line to heaven.
I thought that was going to be
For $500, you can call heaven from the church here. And there was one in almost every church. Well, he finished that trip, very happy to have seen the churches, and caught a flight, and it was a Saturday night, and he was in Dublin, and the very next morning he went to church. And to his great surprise, there in the church in Dublin was that same kind of a telephone, a golden stand, a silver phone. And he said to the parish priest, he said, Father, I know exactly what that is. You can call heaven from here, and it's only $500. And the priest said, well, son, you're partly right. You can call heaven from here, but it's only 50 cents. You see, from Dublin, that'd be a local call. Well, the story of Samuel Neilson lets us know that while it might be a local call from Ireland to heaven, it's still a little bit of a distance to go. And there have been troubles throughout the course of the history of that island nation. Samuel Neilson was a Protestant. He was the son of a Presbyterian minister. And he was very successful as a young man. By the time he was 25, he had already amassed a considerable fortune in the woolen trade. And he could have gone on very comfortably in that trade, but there were things about the political climate around him that bothered him. As I read his story, it reminded me a little bit of the one that he tried to rescue from prison, Lord Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald was also very comfortably situated. He had been an officer in the English Army, in fact fought against us here in the American Revolution for the King, and could have gone on very happily as a nobleman. In fact, the English and the establishment bent over backwards to allow Lord Fitzgerald to kind of get out from under his troubles. But like Fitzgerald, Mr. Nelson just couldn't be happy when he saw such injustice around him. And so he became politically active. He intended to start a reform movement, and he did two things toward that end. He started a newspaper called the Northern Star. He contributed £650 to the newspaper, and then began to pay himself a salary of £100 a year from the paper. So you can see that he really paid his own salary there. And so it's very prescient here that he sacrificed his fortune and his life ultimately in the cause of his country. These men invested what they had. They were not penniless people who had nothing to lose. They were people who had a stake in Ireland, and they wanted it to be a better place. Well, he had several goals for his newspaper and also for the society that he formed. We got together one night in secret because it was dangerous to meet in the open with men like Theobald Wolfe Tone, Some of us younger guys, we think of the Wolfe Tones, we think of good Irish music. But Theobald Wolfe Tone was another Protestant, incidentally. And one of the fellows was telling me earlier that in Kilkenny, is that where he was buried? That to this day there are still flowers on his grave. And so in that very Roman Catholic area, there's a Protestant grave covered with flowers because that Protestant was a patriot for a common cause.